Okay. Hopefully you can. Laura's here. Okay. So tell me, Laura, I'm using a new microphone today. Tell me if it sounds okay, if it sounds weird.
She's very excited about this microphone. There's a lot of excitement and rumble.
So let me know if the microphone is not working or if it sounds bad. Hey, Raina. Because it sounds bad, then I'll go back to old trusty. So just give me you can hear me, all right? All right, well, let me know if it sounds weird or you hear any weird close noise or any kind of weird stuff. All right, in fact, I'm gonna move it. I'm just nervous about it having a bunch of close noise, so I'm gonna move it right there. Okay. All right, I can hear Monique as well. All right. So this is kind of a midday impromptu live stream. I thought we talk about The Chosen. Monique and I were featured in the official reaction trailer for season 1 of The Chosen because we had made some comments about it on our podcast, All the Things. And then I don't know who at The Chosen saw our podcast, but took some of that footage and had put us in the official reaction trailer.
I didn't know this.
Yeah, we played it on the show.
Okay.
Maybe you just don't remember.
Yeah.
So that was from season 1. So, I just wanted to offer like some updated comments. We went last night to see the first 2 episodes of season 3 at the movie theater. And I don't know if you guys have seen the picture that I posted on Facebook. There weren't too many people in the movie theater when we were there. Kind of interesting. Here, I'll put it up on the screen. Let's see here. This is us. Bob got up on the stage and took the picture. I think 2 people came in after we took the picture, but this was us at the movie theater last night watching The Chosen. So yeah, I think I just wanted to offer some additional comments here, and glad you enjoyed the picture. Bob got right up on the stage. So someone's asking why was it at the theater? They did a theater run last year for the first episode or 2, but last year they had all this like big music thing ahead of it, and I didn't want to go to that. But this season it was just they did a little one music video and then a short 3-minute recap of last season, and then they got into the first 2 episodes. It was nice to have like a theater experience, and it was a fun thing for us to do all together as a family. And so I had posted a few comments about it last night on Facebook, and it got like over 100 comments, and I was like, oh wow, there's a lot of interest in this, so maybe I'll do a live stream. Once upon a time, I was a film and television major, and so was my husband, and that was actually how we met. And I thought in my little pretty imaginary world when I was a 19-year-old college student that I was going to someday make movies like The Chosen. I had a side hustle in the mid 90s while I was in seminary for a few years writing movie reviews for a Christian magazine. And so I got a little bit of experience on movie making and having opinions about movies and doing reviews. So I thought maybe I would offer a few comments. Now I know that there are all kind of people on Facebook today on my post. They don't like The Chosen. They got issues about the second commandment, just the endeavor of putting the second person of the Trinity into a movie. They feel like that breaks the second commandment. And I'm sympathetic to those perspectives, and that's still an issue that I'm studying and thinking about. So I won't really be commenting on that per se. But I know people got a lot of strong feelings about The Chosen. Some of you are going to hate this review. Some of you are going to agree with the review. I can already kind of know how it's all going to go based on the comments on Facebook. So if you're not into it, that's okay. Just move along. We don't have to agree on everything. This is just an opinion on particular issue, but I certainly would welcome thoughtful comments as we go along here. So I am going to offer a few comments. Now, I wanted to start off by talking about the writing and how they lay out The Chosen. Season 1, I actually thought was pretty well written. Yeah, there was a little bit of creative license in there, but I felt like for the most part, season 1 created scenarios that I could see were plausible, and it was really giving a lot of insight into first century Jewish culture. I really appreciated that part of it. I found it educational, and to me, a lot of Jesus-y movies lack backstory for the characters, and they kind of just seem like they're all plot devices, and almost robotic, and you don't know why anybody is doing anything, and there's very little explained about motives. And so I think that is where The Chosen was really strong in season 1. And what I liked about it was kind of putting some flesh and bones on the characters, making them sort of come alive a little bit, pricking your imagination to think about it, and creating plausible scenarios, but also I felt like giving me insights into the original first century Jewish culture. Season 2 was not that for me. I think that our family kind of agreed. Well, but I'll only speak for my husband and I. We felt like the series was veering further and further away from the biblical text, and the scenarios were getting kind of more frequent, and the ending for me of the Sermon on the Mount, kind of the one of the threads of season 2 is Jesus getting ready to really launch his preaching ministry, and he's putting together a sermon, and he conscripts Matthew into helping him record or write out the sermon. And you see Jesus practicing it and asking for, almost like advice on what to do and what to say. It was peculiar. It was a little peculiar. We weren't really fans of that. And then at the end, it was kind of implied that the apostles built a stage for Jesus. And in the last scenes of season 2, they had these curtains, and Jesus was going to go out and give the message. It was weird. I just had vibes of like 1990s church growth movement kind of a thing. I just thought the idea of building a stage and Jesus coming out to perform almost like in front of the curtains, I just thought the whole thing was a little strange. And my husband and I were not big fans of that. So let's see here. Oh, Raina, this is a great point. Raina says, I haven't seen it. I'm curious to hear what you have to say. This video will contain spoilers. So if you are one of those people who does not like spoilers, now is the time to turn this off, because I will be talking about specifics. If you don't mind spoilers, stay tuned. All right. Let's see here. This is our oldest goes to high school only on Wednesday group. They have been watching The Chosen. We talk all the time about how it's all conjecture. Well, and that kind of brings me to my point. Oh yeah, Laura. Oh gosh, like the Broadway show Jesus Christ Superstar or whatever it's called. Kind of like that. It was weird. Like the end of season 2 was a bit peculiar. So we get there last night. We watched the first 2 episodes of season 3. All right, episode 1. It moved very slow. There was way too much dialogue, like a lot of talking. It was a lot of talking. Not a lot of action. They're just like people. And when I mean by action, I'm not talking about like car crashes or sword fights. I'm just talking about like it was just a lot of talking. It was, kind of the afterglow of some warm-up event to the Sermon on the Mount or something. And it was just weird. It just felt like, I don't know what the purpose of this episode was really. And it just was a lot of talking. And there was quite a bit of kind of strange, anachronistic American humor, like just little slapsticky kinds of one-liners and that sort of thing. And so it was weird. Like, it was kind of Americanized humor. And so for me, I felt like we're pretty far from season 1, where, I felt like it was kind of trying to teach me something about the first century and Jewish life and the cultural background. We're like in the realm of what I call fan fiction now. Like, this is really a fan fiction version of the Bible. That's what The Chosen is turning into. If you know what fan fiction is, it's like fans will write stories that are kind of backstories to big movies or something, of hypotheticals of what if this character had done this, or what if this character had been from here. That's kind of what The Chosen is turning into. It's fan fiction about the Bible. And it's a little peculiar. They're still following if I look at it in big picture terms, the general story arc of Jesus's ministry, John the Baptist being in prison, and Jesus being an itinerant preacher, and his hub is in Capernaum, and he picks 12 apostles. All right, the general story arc is there, it is biblical. But we're really in largely the land of fan fiction now. And it's strange. But the second episode had 2 very powerful moments in it. I felt like the second episode was much stronger writing wise than the first episode. I wanted to talk briefly about the 2 scenes that I felt like were pretty good. One was in Simon Peter's house, and Jesus was commissioning the 12 apostles. And so they've had all this itinerant preaching with the women kind of traveling with them, and they're gathering disciples as they go, kind of the first year of Jesus's ministry. This scene in season 3 of episode 2 was like commissioning the 12. So they were all together. There was just the men. The women weren't there. And Jesus lets them know that he's going to send them out 2 by 2. And he's commissioning them with his power and authority to heal the sick, cleanse the leper, cast out demons. Now, they didn't mention raising the dead, but they mentioned those 3 things. And what I really appreciated about this scene was Jesus beginning to raise the issue of the cost of discipleship, and that it could potentially cost them their lives. And they have all these questions, they're in the room like, wait a minute, like, how are we going to heal people? What's this look like? Can we go back to the healing part again? I don't understand how this is going to work. Wait, we're going to cast out demons, and you don't want us to bring a change of clothes? Now, I thought that scene gave some insight into, that conversation and what it hypothetically might have contained. And again, we're in the land of fan fiction now. So, but I did appreciate that scene. I think I would play that scene if I was doing a teaching related to Luke 9 or Matthew 9. Pretty good. So that was a good high point for me. Really, and I think everybody in our family agreed on this. The strongest scene between the 2 episodes was almost the very last scene of episode 2. There was a discussion between Jesus and who The Chosen calls little James, because there's 2 apostles named James. So one is in the series, they call one Big James, one Little James. And Little James, they have this kind of plot device where he uses a cane and something's wrong with his leg. And so he comes up to ask Jesus, like, to the effect, how can I go out and start healing people if I myself am crippled? You know, how is that going to work? And he and Jesus have this very intense conversation, basically trying to address the question, why does Jesus heal some and not others? Which is a very powerful question. And I think my speculation is that the writers contrived of this issue with little James being crippled, because to my knowledge, there's no scriptural warrant for that. But they're using that as almost like a plot device to tackle this question that I think a lot of viewers would have when they see Jesus healing all these people. The question that's raised in the back of their mind is like, well, what about me? Like, why doesn't Jesus heal everyone? And there's another like kind of minor, very, very minor character who is one of Jesus's like on the outer circle of the disciples, who appears to be blind. And so we're supposed to gather from this, that Jesus doesn't heal everybody. Oh, Laura, can you help me here? We've got the porn troll. Okay. All right. So, okay. So that scene between Jesus and little James was interesting. The theology of it was basically trying to explain, this question of why doesn't Jesus heal everybody? It was okay. I just think it's interesting that this is a tough question that Christians have to kind of piece together and answer. There's not, a lot of like direct revelation toward this question. We kind of have a verse here and a verse here and a verse here, and we kind of pull those things together. But it was an okay answer to the question. Very well acted and very well written. And I think of the whole experience last night of the first 2 episodes, that scene was probably the best. Second to the scene where he commissions the 12. So again, The Chosen consistently is doing well with production value. Again, I think the writing is weaker in seasons 2 and 3 than it was in season 1. I haven't done enough research to know if they changed writers or, behind the scenes, if there was any differences. But just for me, like the writing just does not feel as strong as season 1. They almost feel like they're kind of in love with what they're doing, and they've got all these little slapsticky side jokes now. It's a little peculiar. But strong visual production value, well directed, well acted. But I feel like the storytelling is getting weaker as the series goes on. But I feel like the actors are really trying to do a good job. They are so solid that they're trying to kind of rehab some of the weaker writing. This is all opinions. That's what a movie review is. It's a bunch of opinions, okay? So one issue that I'm starting to have concerns about with The Chosen is people who are new Christians or Christians who are not biblically literate, and children. Like, I'm not sure that they know that this is approaching fan fiction at this point. I think that if I was a new Christian and I watched the series, I might not know off the top of my head how to differentiate between what is backstory that is made up and a fictional contrivance versus what's scriptural. And I think if I was a new Christian and I watched it and I got really excited about reading the Bible, and then I went and read the Gospels, and I might be highly confused. Like, wait, what? You know, there's a lot of things in The Chosen that are simply not in the Bible. I think for children, it could be confusing too, like, unless you're really having a lot of intentional conversations with your kids about, well, this is sort of fan fiction. This part of it is made up, and this part of it, and really 90% of this is made up at this point. I would say about 90% of it is made up. It's fictional. Not to say that it couldn't happen. It could be that way. But I would say that the biblical content was somewhere, in my opinion, was somewhere around 10%. And so, you have to weigh that out, I guess. Um, it's enjoyable if you look at it as fan fiction. It's enjoyable. It's entertaining. We had a great time as a family, but I do understand and am sympathetic to people's concerns about it, because for new believers, for children, for people that are not biblically literate, then they won't have the ability to kind of filter in real time what's real and what's not. And at this point, most of it is fiction. Let's look at a couple comments here. Kelly says, my husband and I love the scene between Jesus and little James. Thought of people like Johnny Erickson, Tada, and their witness. Yeah, I think that's exactly what that scene was designed to do, is address people like that. Engaged Truth. Who is that? Is that Caleb? Engaged Truth? Engaged Truth? I can't remember. Would you say The Chosen has the possibility of function similar to fan fiction about Jesus in the early church? I don't think I understand this question. Maybe try re-asking. I'm slow. Maybe try re-asking it a different way. Kim says, I do have to say season 1, the episode of Jesus living in the woods and the kids visit him, that was probably my favorite moment in season 1. I love the idea and expression of what Jesus would be like with kids. Me too. I really liked that scene. And I know it's fiction. But see, I have a fairly high level of biblical literacy, so I can quickly in real time tell, like, oh, this is fictional. This is sort of plausible. This is totally fictional. This is sort of accurate. So, yeah, Caleb says it's him. Caleb, try re-asking your question a different way. I haven't had my lunch yet, so I'm just not quite understanding it. Okay, I had a few people on my post last night on Facebook ask me what I thought about the Chosen app having some content about Catholicism. I don't know, maybe there was a devotional or something from a Catholic perspective. Well, Dallas Jenkins has not made it a secret that one of the scholars he has a group of scholars working with him behind the scenes. I think one's a Roman Catholic, one's a Protestant, and one is a Messianic Jew, if I remember right. And so it doesn't surprise me at all that there would be Catholic related content on the app. I think Jenkins is intentionally trying to be very cross-denominational, and Catholics, we agree with Catholics on the incarnation and the general features of Jesus's ministry and historicity of what he's doing. We don't have differences with Catholics on who Jesus is, or that he was the God-man, fully God, fully man, the incarnation, all of that. So I'm not troubled at all by Catholics interacting with the content or the app having some devotional from a Catholic point of view. Catholics are Trinitarians. Catholics, we agree with thoughtful Catholics on many issues. Now, I am not a Catholic. I am a Protestant, and I have reasons for that. There are areas where I disagree with Catholics, but in my opinion, I have way more in common with a thoughtful Catholic or Catholic convert than with evangelical progressives. And someday when they line up Christians to go to the gulag, nobody's going to care whether you're a Catholic or a Baptist, because we're all kind of in the same bucket, if you know what I mean. So I just don't get hung up too much about the Catholic issue. And maybe someday I'll do a teaching on more fully explaining my views on Catholics. But there's a lot of different kind of Catholics in the world. There's cultural Catholics. There are the Catholics that are like, my grandmother was devout, I'm not. There's holiday Catholics, American Catholics, liberal Catholics, but there's also very, very devout traditional Catholics. And I have a lot in common with them. And so I'm always trying to find areas where I agree with people first. I welcome the conversation of how we disagree in a thoughtful, ironic way. We can have that discussion. But the fact that Catholics appreciate the chosen, or some Catholics do, that doesn't surprise me in the least, because we agree on the incarnation and the life and ministry of Jesus. Okay. Raina says, I think it's a good, healthy show. I do worry about the confusion it can lead to. My 7-year-old always says, that's not real. Then he'll ask, is it? That's great. And stay in the conversation with him. I agree. We had a great time as a family. There's so few things that we can all agree on as a family, from my mother, who's in her 80s, down to my teenager, who's 19, and all of us in between. Go have a good time, blow some dough on the movie. And we had a great time. And it was great for that. My kids are fairly biblically literate, so I don't really have too many concerns about those issues. And we had a great time. And I think that is, in comparison to other things that are in the movie theaters, I think that, it was a great alternative. It was a fun time. Raina is continuing her comment here. Healthy as opposed to what is available in our culture. I agree. And she agrees with me. The first season was her favorite, the most uplifting. Yeah. I really wished that they had kind of kept the trajectory of season 1. Christy, can I comment on the line where Jesus says, I am the law of Moses? No, I'm not going to comment on that, because I haven't seen the movie, or I haven't seen the whole episode. I haven't seen the context. I don't think that it's useful or helpful to form a strong opinion about something that is utterly decontextualized in a movie trailer. Like, that's not helpful. Especially, given the complexities of the show and what they're trying to do. I don't think that it's an exact quote from the Book of Mormon. The question is the spirit behind it? There's all these conspiracy theories because of Dallas Jenkins, the producer, director, writer, originator, getting some funding from Mormons. The Angel platform that he distributes on is owned by LDS members. The sets, I think, are either owned officially by the LDS Church or by LDS members. They have like a standing set of Jerusalem. I guess I just don't find this deeply problematic, because to my knowledge, I don't see ways that Dallas Jenkins has been shaped by LDS theology yet. I'm looking for it. I got my antenna up. I'm looking for it, but I haven't seen it yet. Maybe the closest encroachment we might get is some of those scenes in season 2 where he was like rehearsing his sermons. That was a little strange. Are they making him a little too human? I don't know. But movie making is a complicated business. It's expensive. And Dallas Jenkins is trying to make something that will compete in production value with the Hollywood level. And in my opinion, the movies that the show is the first type of cinematic Christian art that actually, in my opinion, that I can think of off the top of my head, does compete with the Hollywood standard. And I appreciate that. Movie making is a tough business. I've been on the margins of movie making and knowing people in Hollywood for 30 years. And just because you use somebody's set, like going to rent a set is something you do all the time in movie making. Just because you go rent a set somewhere or somebody lets you film a scene in their bookstore doesn't mean that you're signing off on everything that those owners believe. So I just don't find it problematic at all that he's using sets that are owned by the LDS Church, or that this platform is owned by the LDS, is owned by LDS people. Now, he has said, and I'm going to take him at face value, that they're not pressuring him to change the theology. I'm going to accept that at face value until I have evidence to the contrary. But I don't have evidence to the contrary of that at this point. And in my opinion, that's how Christians ought to conduct themselves. But all of these like conspiracy theories about it, I just don't see that there's enough evidence behind all of that. So I'm looking for it. I'm open to it, but I just don't see it. So those were my thoughts. And, again, going back to the beginning of the issue of, do movies like The Chosen break the second commandment of not making graven images? That's something I'm still thinking through. But, a lot of people are like, oh, The Chosen has all this creative license. Well, I'm going to tell you, as a filmmaker, every film about Jesus takes creative license. Even if they say they're just, doing straight from the Gospels, like the Jesus movie or the Jesus film or the Gospel of John or something. I appreciate the sentiment of that, but go read Neil Postman. The difference between the written medium and the visual medium are two entirely different ways of communicating. So no matter what you do, you are going to communicate differently. You are going to have to take some level of inherent creative license whenever you translate from the written word to the screen. The only question that is there is really, to what degree does the movie take creative license? And I mean, we could debate that point of, is there some line that The Chosen crosses on, it takes too much time. Like I said, my opinion, 90% of episodes 1 and 2 were sort of fan fiction. But no matter what Jesus movie you put up on the screen, you're going to have to take some creative license. It's just the nature of it. You have to. There's two different mediums. It's not the same thing. So, what's that line of what percentage, must it be accurate, and what percentage must it be creative license? Or is the whole thing off the table because of the second commandment? I think that's an interesting point that we could discuss. Okay, Stacy wants to know, what is an evangelical progressive? Well, I'm going to refer you to my friend Elisa Childers' ministry for that. That is her whole ministry of defining what that is, but it is basically somebody who calls themselves an evangelical, but redefines certain key doctrines. Okay, yes, they follow progressive theology. So you can go check out Elisa Childers for more on that. Okay, that's it. That's my review. That's all I have to say. Looking forward to watching the other episodes. I'm sure we will as a family. Again, overall, very enjoyable. Writing not as strong as past seasons. Acting still strong. But we are definitely in the land of fan fiction now with The Chosen. Okay, friends, that is all. We will see you soon. Bye-bye.